What is the secret of hacking age? In January 2024, I was chronologically 49 years of age. At that time, I wanted to measure my biological age. I was already a member of the longevity scene and knew some doctors and scientists, and one of them gave me a test kit. And I drawed a few drops of blood, sent it in, and expected nothing, to be honest. To be really honest, I expected to be biologically younger than I was. But then the surprising fact, the lab sent out an email and asked for a call, which was slightly weird. Why would they ask for a call, which is usually not the best sign in terms of discussing lab results? So I went on this call, and the shocking news was I was biologically 74. Now, the first reaction was a shock, to be honest. I needed a few days to recover and went on a longer call with this scientist from this lab. And he told me, your profile looks like a classical CEO profile. You are highly stressed. And because you haven't taken care of your health and many other things, your blood work is probably a mess. Your metabolism is a mess. And so on. This was kind of a realization that I definitely needed to change something. Otherwise, I'll probably only have another 10 or 15 years left. And this was too short of time to go through all my bucket list and all the things I wanted to do. But it was a great wake-up call and showed me how valuable life is and how short time. Back then already, I was interested in writing a book. And I was in contact with the publisher. And it was quite clear that I'm not a longevity scientist. I'm not the kind of expert like Peter Attia is, who I deeply admire, or other great scientists. I'm a doctor by training. I know how to read studies and judge them. I'm deeply interested in medicine, and I'm a big believer in preventative medicine because I believe it's much better to figure out early on which are your risk factors and change life habits and other things in order to avoid diseases, rather than following the systems we are in right now, waiting until you get sick to then take all the medicine, do all the treatments, which make the healthcare system expensive and pharma companies rich and so on. The realization that I'm not a longevity scientist who can provide you guys with the deepest knowledge on the latest studies was one thing, but the other thing was maybe my personal story is worth telling because I'm discovering longevity from a personal perspective. And as a doctor with knowledge about in medicine and deeply interested, I might give some insights more from my point of view. So in order to write a good book, I started in analyzing my personal life situation, my habits and my beliefs. Back then, I was, as I said, 49, and I was highly stressed for several reasons, mainly because I am an ambitious entrepreneur, and I grew a single practice for dermatology to the biggest clinic chain in Switzerland with like 5 locations and 150 employees. And as you can imagine, this happened within 6 or 8 years and was quite a stressful period, but also with a lot of fun, satisfaction, and learnings. But I pushed it a little bit too far because aside of my big company, I started a restaurant which gained 2 Michelin stars in like 4 months. I was investor on Shark Tank in Switzerland. I run an international training academy and so on. Clearly, my life wasn't in balance, whatever balance means, and we come back to that later. And my main factors were too much alcohol, unhealthy food, sleeping pills, lack of sleep, a lot of pressure, mainly because of money and too fast or debt and too fast of growth and all these kind of things. But the weird thing, we often don't realize how unhealthy we live. People in our circle say you should take care of yourself and you should step down a little bit. We believe our own stuff, unfortunately. From today's perspective, they were absolutely right. I was a mess. My personality changed and so on. So I started analyzing my health life, which is great. So I did a lot of examination, X-rays, MRTs. I checked my blood work, my everything almost, DEXA scan, heart rate, all these performance measurements like VO2 max and so on. And this took a lot of my time. I realized that life is not necessarily only about just adding more years to your life and getting 100 or 110, rather than reflecting on how to make your life more impactful, give it more meaning, and find your purpose. And this is not only about health, and this is not only about adding years or doing longevity, whatever that means, and we'll come to that later. So I pivoted my strategy a little bit and was thinking, okay, what is life about and what is the meaning of adding years? Isn't it more important to have some kind of purpose and balance of a few pillars in order to make your life fulfilled and meaningful? And the first thing I then did was thinking about what really matters in life. And here's my take. I came up with 3 pillars which I believe are key to a long, fulfilled, and happy life. So pillar number 1 is health. And with health, I mean your physical health, your mental health, your body feeling, your happiness, all these kind of things. Health is only one pillar, but in my opinion, at least there are 2 more pillars which are as important. And this is people, relationships, friends, right? We are humans and we need to be connected to other people. But what is the take here and what is the secret of living healthy relationships and healthy friendships? It also can be animals, by the way. As you know, I'm a big dog lover, 12 dogs. It can be nature, but it's human connections. Let's say it that way. The third pillar is progress. In my belief, humans need some kind of progress in life in order to be happy and have a sense of fulfillment and meaning in life. And with growth, I mean, most cases it's probably career or business or some kind of other developments like sports or volunteer work or serving the community, raising kids. It can be many things. I think of importance is that there's some kind of development. So the opposite of development and growth is the assembly line where you do the same work day in, day out. I don't think that's making you happy or giving you any meaning or fulfilled life. Key here is that you can do something you are passionate about in a framework of trust and improvement and learning and developing, whether that's your own business or you work for someone else. At least in my experience, this is a key factor amongst health and relationships. So I set up my book system. Let's define longevity in a new way and talk about these 3 pillars: health, human relationships, and development and growth. Before we dive into the single pillars, I realized something really important. My life at that time was an autopilot. I was so much in stress and hustle, I had no time to reflect on anything. I was doing things day in, day out. A lot of them I hated or I was doing because they have been done this way all the time. But it really doesn't make sense. It only robbed my time and my nerves. So I implemented one tiny habit which really changed my life, and I called it the meeting with myself. Every Friday night, I was sitting down with myself. I went back on the previous week and evaluated these 3 pillars in terms of results and outcomes. So let's start with human relationships. I was reflecting on what kind of people did I meet. How has these meetings been for me? Were they of value, or have I been doing stuff because I always have done it this way or because I was avoiding a clear conversation? And this is meant to business relationships as well as friendships. And I can give you a bunch of examples. I have a few contacts in my life where I meet them occasionally because I have the feeling I have to meet them. And I'm trying to avoid these conversations, explaining that we have evolved and developed in different directions and we really haven't anything to share and no common interests, and we're just meeting because we are doing this for 20 years. So I learned to say no, or at least to explain clearly why I don't want to continue setting up meetings or drinks or dinners or whatever. And the second type was business meetings, whereof many aren't necessary. So I'm meeting a bunch of reps and other people who have the intention to sell me stuff, and I already know I won't buy it because there's nothing really new, it's a waste of time. So today I respond to all attempts for business meetings and ask for a proposal in advance, figuring out if this business meeting is really something I want to do or not. That's what I do every week, and figure out where have I done some improvements in my personal life or my business life in regards of people and relationships. And I have this term, high impact people, which is people I really want to meet because they have some good impact on me. And doesn't necessarily need to be any advantages I have. Maybe it's just having a good time and laughing a lot and feeling connected. That's enough for me. I have this category of low impact people, meaning people where there's no purpose in the meeting and there's no meaning and no advantage, and there's really nothing. And we're doing these meetings just because we're afraid of having proper conversations or saying no. With this kind of self-reflection exercise, my life has improved so much. And it's the same for the other pillars. So in terms of health, I do the same. So I have some limitations. I only have one leg. So there's certain kind of things I can't do, like playing tennis or running or these. So my sport is mainly cycling, swimming, and strength training. In terms of longevity, there are two main factors which you have to keep in mind. Strongest predictors of a long life is VO2 max, a high VO2 max, and body strength and stability. So try to focus on this. The best sports, by the way, to improve your VO2 max is tennis, because of these short, high intense movements. But I can play tennis, so I have to focus on cycling and swimming. Both are great. Swimming, by the way, is a sport you can do at all ages. While maybe cycling, other things might get difficult when you get older, but swimming you can do probably until you 80 or 90, hopefully. So there's some great advantages in cycling, which I'm mainly doing, which is improving my VO2 max and my endurance. But in terms of stability training, it's less good because there's no gravity, because I'm sitting on the bike and just turning these pedals. So I add to my cycling training definitely strength training, which is not only lifting weights and improve my muscle mass, but also doing a lot of stability training. Why is stability in training so important? Because a lot of problems occur in age when you have accidents, when you fall down steps or other things happen. And that happens quite regularly and quite often the older you get, because of loss of muscle mass and stability. And all these kind of injuries and fractures, whatever happens, are really, really problematic, as you can't recover from them that easily. Your muscle mass will either drop further, and a lot of people just die. A lot of people just die in their 70s, 80s, 90s because of an injury or a fracture, and they're not able to recover from that properly. So the attempt of many longevity experts is to really improve your stability in order to avoid falling or stumbling or getting any injuries. In my case, as I only have one leg, it's quite a challenge because I can't train my amputated left leg properly. So I really have to focus on stability and stability training. So that's what I do for my health. I have a few measurements I do. I'm not a big fan of supplements and all these kind of things, but I'm a big fan of figuring out my risk factors. In my case, it's clearly cardiovascular disease. I have a little bit of high blood pressure and my lipids are a little bit elevated. I have checked all that and did all these kind of other measurements and figured out my risk profile, and my health clearly focuses on these kind of things. So I try to improve or lower the risk of cardiovascular disease because that's my main target. And the supplements I take are really personalized in order to support this. And this is from Peter Attia, one of the longevity experts I really admire, who said the importance of supplements is like having steak or lobster on the Titanic. So it really doesn't matter. The main issue is, are you navigating through an iceberg or not, and how can you avoid that? But whether you eat lobster or steak, that means whether you take these or these supplements, it doesn't really matter. Get the basics right, which is sleep, stress resilient nutrition, and exercise. And then on top, the cherry of the cake is maybe some kind of supplements. So this is my focus basically in terms of health. VO2 max, body and strength training, stability training, checking my risk factors and target them. And in terms of nutrition, I have quite a simple strategy because I love food. I'm sorry for that. And life is always a trade-off. So I wouldn't be the guy who's avoiding all kinds of foods in order to live 1 or 2 years longer. So what I've did, I avoided alcohol out of my life, or eliminated alcohol out of my life. And in terms of nutrition, I have the rule I want to supply myself with 150 grams of proteins per day. And I can't do that with food only. You need to eat 40 eggs or something like that. I can't do that. So I supply myself with external proteins, usually shakes, whey protein. And you have to understand you can't take 150 grams of protein at once. The body is able to absorb round about 35 grams of protein. So I have 3 shakes per day, one in the morning with 35 grams, and then one at lunch, and then one in the evening. That's number one rule for nutrition and eating. Number two, I try to eat at least once or twice a week a salad, or vegetables with as much colors as possible. I call it eat the rainbow. And on top of my salad, I have a mix of seeds. It's a mix I create myself with lentils and chia seeds and all these kind of things. And it's a mixture I'll put on my salad. So that's rule number 2. So rule number 3 is I try to avoid alcohol, white flour, sugar, and processed food. And that's it for me. Other than that, I don't have much of restrictions. In my opinion, it's rather not the big of an issue what you eat, but what you don't eat. So in my opinion, it really doesn't matter that much what you eat, but what you don't eat. So that are my rules. Enough protein, avoid certain things like alcohol, white flour, sugar, and processed food, and make sure at least twice a week have a proper portion of plants or salad and my seed mix. That's it. Okay, let's jump to the last 2 sections in terms of health. There's many more to discuss, but I'll do that later, is sleep and stress resilience. Back then, when I did the aging test, I literally was drinking about 8 beers per night, every night. And then I was pumped up. And then I took 3 sleeping pills to fall asleep. So I'm not really surprised. My biological age was 74. And I started measuring my sleep. And I found out when you drink alcohol or eat heavy foods in the evening, your heart rate stays high throughout the entire night. That being said, or that means your body is under stress the entire night, working on digesting the food or detoxing the alcohol. A good night's sleep and a good recovery means your heart rate drops quite dramatically in the beginning of the sleep and stays low almost the rest of the night. So in order to get there, I stopped drinking alcohol and withdrawal of the sleeping pill, which was horrible, to be honest. Wasn't that easy. And after that, I tried to take a light meal at least or latest 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock in the evening to don't be that filled up and give my body enough time to digest it before sleep. And then a rule which is really important to me is to try to follow the rhythm of the day in terms of light. So when I wake up in the morning, I try to get some kind of sunlight or at least have an artificial daylight lamp on my side table. A lot of tribes in Africa who are not connected to electricity or other things really follow these rhythms and they have no problems with sleep. There's several studies about that and I don't want to dive into them, but I think it's key for us. We're so much influenced by all these artificial lights and things we do and screens we use at night. So sunlight early in the morning after you wake up, and I'll do the same at night. I try to dim my rooms when it's getting dark outside. I use a special glass. It's a blue light blocker glass. You can buy them everywhere. It's not a big issue, not very expensive. And you literally can feel that they block some kind of light elements, which helps you to really wind down and get slightly tired. So I think this rhythm of light and darkness is super important. Number 3, I avoid caffeine after lunch. I'm quite sensitive to caffeine. You might be different, but I won't sleep properly if I have coffee late in the afternoon. So I do these things mainly to improve my sleep. There's some more stuff to do, but that's fine for the moment. And then stress resilience. I really had to overthink my working style and I did a lot. I don't want to dive into that deeply here now, but this directly links into personal growth and development, which is great. But you also can overpace, and a lot of entrepreneurs do that. They overpace, and they had success with one company, and then they do like 3 others, and things get crazy in life. So what I did, I'm fortunate to be able to do that. I went to my leading team and said, I'll take off the mornings so I can learn to sleep again properly, so I don't have the pressure to wake up early in the morning. And I use the mornings to really do some sports and sauna and take care of myself. And I show up for lunch, and then I'm working intensively in the afternoon. The other thing is I realized, and that's what I did in my self-reflection meetings, I realized that I have strengths and weaknesses. And I have things I like to do and I don't like to do. And I try to really focus on my strength and the stuff I like to do. I try to get rid of all the other things. And this was a process over a year, but I think I really did well. And nowadays I can say that I'm in the lucky position that I have found my purpose again. I love what I do. I focus on my strength and I leave the rest of the things with others. This was my brief introduction about hacking life. There's so much more to talk about. Drop a comment and follow me.